Hello, good morning.
Hey, morning. Hey, guys, this is Mohan here. Do we have any link where we find all the documentation and the recordings at one place?
Yeah, there is a Google Drive they created.
It seems I have access to only, I could see only the material for the third class.
No, there is from what are all the documents you can see? I can see like SQL self-learning, certification dumps, name stage, table stage, CLI stage, load data from.
No, I could see only the three underscore
Can you
table
can you
underscore
check if you
stage.
have access to this page? I'm pinging you in the chat.
Yeah, thanks. That helps. Yeah, please.
Give a try this one if you have access to.
Yeah, trying it now. So 8 a.m. batch running. So the last one, SQL self-learning, right?
Yeah, that is the
Demo
latest.
class.
I think they exported certification dumps and SQL self-learning for others. 13th.
Oh, okay. So
Yesterday, name
okay, so after every class, they'll be uploading the
looks like yes, they are.
documentation, right? Oh, okay, okay.
You can just keep this on refresh daily. Probably you can see.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks so.
No problem.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Very sorry for the delay. Just give me 1 second. We will start the session. Okay, guys. So, so what we have done in the last session. So we discussed about how to work with a named stage implementation, right? So till now here, so what we have done. So whatever the data it is available in our local system, so we have uploaded into our Snowflake tables, right? So now, so we will see in this session. So if you have any errors, if you have any errors in a file, then how to process it, then how we can able to process it, we will see that information. And so how to identify the errors. So for example, here let's observe this, the file, any file here, come to this is the file. All right, if you observe this file, see this one, what you observed here. So employee ID, if you observe, these two are numbers, right? And these two are strings. So when you create table structure, let's assume employee ID we created as a number. Now if you try to load the data into the table with this particular file, what will happen here? These two are error records, right? It will not allow you to load these particular two rows because of this is not a number, right? This is the error. Let's consider this. Now, so we have two options. So when you are validating, so we can able to implement by using two implementations. One is before loading data. Before loading data, we can able to identify the errors. Another one is after loading data, we can able to identify two options. But so before loading a data, if you wanted to use, we can use the option called validation mode. Validation mode equal to return errors. Return errors. This is the function we are going to give. So when you wanted to check what all the errors it is available, what we are going to use here, validation mode equal to return errors. What it will do is just it is going to display how many errors it is available, what all the errors it is available in a file when you are processing. This validation mode command, right? We have to give it in copy command implementation. We have to give it in a copy command. If you have any errors, it will display return errors. What is the condition here? It is going to return the errors. And if you don't have any errors in a file, it will not load any data. Don't get confused here. You are going to include this in a copy command only. But if you don't have any errors, when you are using validation mode, it will not return any, it will not load any data. And the zero errors, so just it will be blank, so it will not going to display any errors. At the same time, if errors is not available also, it will not load any data when you are using validation mode. Remember this, validation mode only we will use to see the error related information. That's it. Okay, so now let's observe this. So how to deal with this, how we can able to, how it is going to display the error related information. So let's observe this. So when you are
Dinesh,
using
you're breaking. We're unable to hear you.
username and password you have given,
Uh,
now
we lost your voice for a minute.
uh, am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Now, so we will create a table. So whatever the data is available here, this particular file, we are trying to load it into a table. When you are trying to load it into the table, so what all the different options we can able to see. If it is a error related information, let's observe this one here. So let's create a table. When you are creating a table here, observe this. So what we are doing here, so here, what is the employee ID here we are giving? See this one, integer, right? And then, so what about the table name? We are creating a table name with employee underscore validate, emp underscore validate. And then we have column names and data type, column names and data type, column names and data type. Now, when you create this, observe this one, we created a table structure. Now the table structure is available with this column name, right? With this column names and data types. Now, if you wanted to load the data into this table, what we required? We need to load it into this particular stage area. It can be anything, right? It can be a so table stage or named stage we can use. Now, so let's so put the file into that particular the stage area. We will use the named stage here. So name stage already it will be available, right? At the rate we can use at the rate percentage and then table name. But where the file is available, if you wanted to pick the file, so pick the path, copy as a path and come here. This is the path.
At the rate percentage table stage, right?
Yes, at the rate percentage table name. That is the table stage, right?
Yeah, you
So
said
now,
name stage, so might be confused.
no, named stage you can use at the rate stage name.
Table.
Okay, so we can use anyone. You can use a table stage or you can use a named stage, right? We can use the both the things. Anyone we can use. Now, if you wanted to use this, where we can able to use, we have to use this in our CLI, right? Now let's come connect it to command prompt type SnowSQL -a and then our account details. Account details are from here to here to here. From here, this is the account details. Now username Snowflake, it username is, and then password. Okay, password. Now we need to connect it to warehouse. Use warehouse, warehouse name, and then use database, database name. Now we have to use this copy command, sorry, put command implementation. Now observe this one, put command. Now we kept the file here. Now the file is available in this particular stage. When the file is available in this particular stage, so we wanted to load it by using a copy command. So what we will do, copy into the table from a stage area, right? So we will implement this, right? We will ignore, so we will comment this and then we will see what it is going to display it here. See this one here, copy into table, copy into table from stage area. This is the stage area, right? This is stage area. Now from stage, copy into table from the stage, and then we have a file format. And let me comment this one. So for time being, now if you observe, when you are going to run this, see this one, what is going to be happen? Let's run this. What it is telling, see the error, numeric value, snow is not recognized, right, in the file. So validate, so this particular file emp validate file, right, that csv.gz line 4, right? So observe this one, so one row character 1, so row 3, right, column EMP validate, column name is employee ID. All right, it is giving the information, right? So if you wanted to see this information before like implementing this, if you wanted to see the proper information here related to error related information, right? What we can do is we can use, see this one, command this validation mode equal to what we have, return errors. Validation mode equal to return errors we are giving now. If you give this validation mode equal to return errors, observe this, what will happen? See this one, what happened here? It is giving the complete information. So what is the reason of the failure? See this one, numeric value is not recognized. So numeric value, the flag is not, these are not in numeric values. And then what is the file? It is giving the file name. And then so which line it is, 4 and 5. And then if you observe, see this one, so column name, employee underscore validate in this table, employee ID is the column name, and rejected records, see this one, these are the rejected records, right? It's giving the complete information, right? Complete information. So this one, so it will show you the reason of the failures. So what all the like I mean error records it is available, you can able to see that information by using validation mode equal to return errors. Let's suppose if you don't have any errors, still you are using validation mode equal to return errors, it will not allow you to load data. Even if you don't have any errors also, when you are using validation, it will not allow you to load the data. For example, we will create another table here with emp validate underscore test table. Here, instead of integer, we will give it as a string. What will happen then? Everything string means it will allow numerics as well as characters, right? So when you create a table, we created a table. Now, if you wanted to load the data into this table, the stage that particular file should be available. So let's load that particular file into validate underscore test stage area, the same file. So come here. Now the file is available in this particular stage also. Now in a copy command also, what we'll do is, now observe this. We are using copy command for emp validate underscore test table. Just we are checking so whether it is going to work it or not, will it load the data or not if you don't have any errors. Now the table we have created, we have loaded the data into this particular table, test table, right? Validate underscore test table, and we are running this one. See this one, because it is string, it will not throw any errors here. See this one, can you able to see any errors here? No errors, right? We don't have any errors when it compared to table structure and then the file implement file structure, right? We don't have any errors. But if you observe, here, see this one, the table, can you able to see the data? See this validate underscore test preview data. If you observe, no, we cannot able to see any data here. We cannot able to see any data here in this particular thing, right?
In the
So,
previous copy statement, data
mhm.
loaded 2 records and 2 records rejected.
No, it's not loaded. That's what I am
Oh,
telling. When you
okay.
are using validation mode, don't get confused. When you use validation mode, it will not allow you to load any data,
Okay.
even if you don't have any errors also. If you don't have any errors also, it will not load any data, right? So this, see this one, so it is not having any data, right? So if you comment this one, see this one, now we are going to comment this, and then now we are going to use only this one, this particular portion. Now what will happen? Now we don't have any errors, it will load. See this one, the data load happened. You can able to see exactly how the data looks like in the file. The same data it is loaded into this particular table. See this one? The same way it is loaded because we have given it as a string, a data type as a string. Now, for example, so as we asked,
Hi,
uh,
Dinesh.
if you, yes,
What is the use of validation mode?
to understand what are the reason of the, or what are the failures.
Before loading data, they wanted to see any errors with the file.
They
That's the
wanted to
reason.
see whether the file is having any errors or not. Before loading, they wanted to cross check. Okay, then we will use a validation mode equal to return errors. We are telling that give me the errors, return the errors in by using validation mode option.
So do we need to use this always when before loading a data?
It is not required. We have a multiple options. Okay, we are going to discuss those things also. Now, okay, this is to identify, right? For example, let's assume in your case, I don't want to every time I don't want to go and then I don't want to like a check. So what are the errors is available? So let it be whatever the file, let it come. I wanted to load only valid records. I wanted to ignore invalid records. So in this, how many valid records it is available? Only two. What about the invalid one? So these two, right? So I wanted to ignore it. Invalid one I wanted to ignore. Only valid I wanted to load. In this particular situation, what you can do is here, if you try to implement validation mode in EMP validate table, if you try to load this, it is not allowing you, right? Because of the errors, right? Because of the data types. If you observe, it will throw the error. It will not allow you to load. Now, if you wanted to continue with only valid records, invalid records we wanted to ignore, then what you can do is we have an option called on error equal to, we will give continue. On error equal to continue. We have given option on error. What is the on error? By default you will have abort statement. On error equal to abort. On error you can use skip file option. On error you can use, see this one, skip file, continue, right? On error option. Skip file means if you have multiple files, error related file it will skip, remaining files it will be loaded. If you have a single file, if you use on error equal to continue, then it is going to load only the valid one and invalid one it will ignore. Now let's observe this one here. See this, when you are running this by using on error equal to continue, we are using on error equal to continue and then we are trying to load. Now let's observe this one here. What happened? Now here, see this, partially loaded. What it is telling? Partially loaded. Partially loaded. See this one. The file, it's loaded, but partially. So rows parsed. How many rows it picked? 4. How many rows it's loaded? 2 it is loaded. And observe the reason of the failure. Numeric value snow is not recognized. Snow is not recognized. And then the first, see this one, error column. What is the error column? Employee ID. Employee ID is the error column. So now understand, right? So how like we will use on error equal to continue option. On error equal to continue option. When you use on error equal to continue, it will continue loading the data. Only how many rows loaded? 2. And then error on the screen, 2 are errors. Now what is the reason of the failure? Numeric values is not recognizing only, so it is telling that the reason of the one failure. Now so here, if you check the data here, refresh it here, and let's come to EMP validate this one. Just observe this one. How many we have? Only two we have, right? Only two we have. So we don't have. So the remaining two, right? Only two it has been loaded. Okay, this is fine. Now let's come to this. Uh, for example, once it is loaded the data into the table, how many records is there?
Dinesh, is
Error
it a
records.
metadata property or a file property? On
Sorry.
error validation mode. This is a metadata property
It's
or
kind of file properties. If you observe, if you describe stage, describe stage, all the things whatever we are using, you can able to see it here. See this one, the enforce length, the purge, on error, right? Abort statement by default. So all these things is available here. Force command, truncate command, enable, right? So these are the properties of the files.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, fine. So now these are the default values. So if you want, we can able to change this implementation, change these values. So instead of default, so we can implement on error equal to, instead of abort statement, we can use a continue, right? So now let's observe this one. So here it has been loaded, right? Two is loaded and then two is rejected. Now after loading the data, what we will do is, for our best practices, we are going to remove the data from the particular table. Now one more thing, after loading the data, if you try validation mode equal to return errors, observe this one, this data has been loaded into the table, right? Whether I can able to see the errors or not. If I run this one, this is the same thing, right? To identify the errors we have used, when you run this validation mode equal to return errors, can you able to see any errors? We have a two errors, right? But why it is not showing?
Because
It
that
will
file
not
is
show
already
you.
processed.
File is already correct. File is already processed into the table, right? Once it is processed, it validation mode equal to return errors will not work. Validation mode equal to return error is not going to work, right? Then what is the option? Now after load data has been loaded, only valid records it's loaded. Now I wanted to check what all the rejected records, what all the records has been not loaded. If I wanted to see that, after loading, we have a option called, after loading, validate option. We have a option called, after loading the data, we have validate option is available. Validate option is available. So now let's observe this. So how we can able to see this one. So validate option we can use based on query ID. Based on query ID. Here we will understand two things. One is query ID, another one is session ID. Observe this, when you are running every query here in our worksheet, there will be a unique query ID will be available. If you open worksheet, you can able to see the query IDs. See this one, you can able to see the query IDs here, right? If you wanted to see the complete query IDs, if you go to, you can open here history. Otherwise, you have observed query history tab. See this one, history tab. Click on this history tab. When you click on this history tab, observe this query. Sorry, observe the query IDs. See this one. Every query ID will be unique. Every query when we are running in our worksheet, so there will be a unique query ID will be available to identify the which query we are running, and then when it ran and everything, the statement, if you wanted to see, so based on the query ID, you can able to understand this. See this one, query ID, all this thing, every query ID will be unique. Query ID will not be duplicated. If you observe, see this one here, the same query we ran 3 times, but observe this one, query ID is different. query each and every time when you are running, query ID is different. It's a unique. And if you observe session ID is different. Session ID, for example, if you log in today, the new session ID will be generated. New session ID will be available. That same session ID will carry forward. For example, if you session ID, see this one, so this one, if you observe, see this one, from here to here, the same session IDs, everywhere the same session ID, right? Everywhere the same session ID. So 585858, right? So you can able to see that. So this one we worked in a CLI. See this stage, describe stage, name stage, right? This one we ran in a CLI. If you ran separate worksheet, new session ID will be generated. In the worksheet, if you run n number of queries, session ID will be the same. If you run in CLI, for CLI session ID will be different. And then if you run, for example, we'll use select star from EMP. We are using this in a CLI. Sorry. Now, see this. We executed that, right? Now come to the history and just observe, refresh it. What you observed? See this one? Select star from EMP. Two different query IDs. But observe the session ID. Session ID, it will be different. See this one? We are working in a CLI, right? And this is a CLI. This is our worksheet. If I change the worksheet to new worksheet, if I run any query on this particular worksheet, the query ID, it will session ID will be this one, right? If I change that worksheet, for example, I'm going to new worksheet, and here we'll use, let's select it to this context, database and schema selected. Now if you observe, not even if you write any queries, if you use this option also, preview data also, see this one, we are using preview data. We ran this particular thing in this particular worksheet, right? Now if you come here, history, and then if you observe this here, see this one, select star from table, right? Limit 100. Why limit came here? Because we are using preview option. Always remember in preview option, so it will give you first 100 records. In select star from table, normal query, it is going to give the complete information, right? Here observe this one. This is a new worksheet, right? So whatever the queries we are running in this particular worksheet, everything will be the same session ID will be there. Whatever the queries we are going to run in the first worksheet, that will be this one. Whatever the queries we are going to run in CLI, for that, this will be a session ID, right? Session ID can be a duplicated, but query ID will not be duplicate. Query ID will not have any duplicate information, right? So now if you observe, see this one, all the query IDs, there is no duplicate. Okay, it is a unique. Now based on the query ID, we can able to identify, so what are the reason of the failures here? What are the reason of the failures? Let's come to this here. So based on the query ID, after loading a data into the table, we need to know, so what is the query ID for this particular execution? When you use the copy command, so what is the sorry,
Dinesh, we are unable to hear you. Hello, Dinesh.
yeah, this one, right? See this one, on a
Dinesh, you're breaking up a lot. Dinesh.
Yeah, we are unable to hear you. Can you please come back? Last 2 minutes.
Just a minute. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Am I
Yes.
audible now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So now, if you observe here, see this. No, no, it is trucking sometime. Okay, fine. So now, if you observe, see this one. So what is the query here? Where it is continue, right? This is the one. Continue on error equal to continue. Now let's pick this particular query ID, and come to the worksheet. Now this is the query ID for that, right? This is the query ID. Now if you wanted to see, then how to so get these particular errors after loading the data, what you have to do is we have to use this implementation. So copy into, sorry, validation mode on error equal to continue error records. If you observe, see this one. So just use this particular command. Select star from table. We can use and observe this one. Select star from table. We are using validate option for this particular table. What is the table? Which table we have loaded the data? EMP validate table. We have loaded the data by using on error equal to continue. The same query, right? EMP validate table, which we have picked. EMP validate table. Yes. So now, so the same table, and then job ID is nothing but here query ID. Don't get confused here. Job ID or query ID, or sometimes the execution ID. So different the persons with call with the different names. Execution ID, the query execution, the execution ID, job ID, same thing. So query ID, same thing. Now observe this one. This is the query we are going to run. Select star from table, validate, and then EMP validate, and then we are giving job ID. This is a validate function, and then EMP validate for this particular table. When you are using this query ID, show me the errors. Show me the errors. That is the meaning of this. Now, when you execute this one, see this one. When you execute this, what you can able to see? After loading a data, we can use validate option. Before loading a data into the table, we can use validation mode equal to return errors. It's clear, right? How to see the details. Okay. So if you wanted to maintain, for example, rejected records, I wanted to maintain into the separate table for a reference purpose. What you can do, for example, create a new table, right? Create table like rejected table, for example, for EMP. So whatever it may, the file EMP validate table, rejected table, as we can use this one. Now what will happen now? It is going to keep the complete details in that particular rejected table. It will be stored here, right? So whenever you want, you can able to cross check all these error records is available in so rejected. So where it is rejected table. Observe this one, right? You can able to see this information, right? So now, so let's say for example, uh, coming to, okay, when you see the file, how many, like what is the length of the column names? 4, right? We have a option called truncate option. Here, one thing if you observe, here if you observe this one, see this one, enforce length or truncate columns. Enforce length or truncate columns. So when you observe these enforce length or truncate columns, so what will happen is both are going to use it for a same purpose. If you wanted to truncate, then so we are going to use this implementation.
we lost you again.
Dinesh, we lost you.
I think it's
We're still waiting for Dinesh to come back, right? Just want to make sure I'm not.
Yeah,
the one
looks
who-
like some problem. Yeah, I don't see him on the Zoom. Maybe he's joining back or something.
Yeah.
Do you guys see him in the Zoom?
I'll
Bali
check
is
it.
Get the
there, right?
WhatsApp.
Actually, he pinged on WhatsApp group. You can check that.
Okay.
He's putting laptop.
Okay, perfect.
I think he has some problem. I think let us connect tomorrow. That is what he mentioned.
Has he responded, Sarona?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, he responded in WhatsApp.
Yeah, I just pinged the same thing, what he responded in the group.
I think Dinesh has done that to discontinue this session.
Yes, yes.
And
Can we drop him?
Yep, yep.
okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.